Hello and welcome to That Nerd Thing, where we uncover the magical impact that fandoms have on our lives. I'm Morgan, and today I'm so excited. I have somebody who I know from book club, who apparently she's an author, and then I looked her up even more, and I'm like, wait a second. She's like a musician. She's a total creative. So I'm so excited that she's here today. Her book just came out called, oh my gosh, I can never pronounce this word. Heir. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Heir of Blood and Fire, Marina Laurendi. So hi, Marina.
Hello.
Congratulations. Your book came out just a few days ago at the time of this recording.
Yes. Yep. I'm so excited. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, as soon as you said like you have a book coming out, I'm like, you need to come on the show and tell everybody.
I was like, immediately, yes.
Yeah. So what has release week been like for you?
It's my first time doing this. So it's been like a lot of unexpected things happening, but it's been really good so far. It's been getting good like feedback on Goodreads and Amazon. So it's been surreal.
That's amazing.
Sure.
I'm so excited to dive in and read it. It looks so good. Do you want to tell listeners what your book's about?
Yeah. So basically it's about this girl who's pretty much part of the bookish community. She's 29. Her life has not really turned out the way she's planned. So she ends up moving. She ends up in Florida. So then she finds herself in the world of the Fae through this magical things. I don't want to give too much away, but she ends up being part of this like ancient prophecy. And she's like, there's these court intrigues going on and she has to like do something special. So I don't want to say too much, but that's the premise.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
How long have you been writing it?
I started last May and I think it was done by July.
Wow.
Yeah.
So July of this
year.
Wait, whoa.
Like this past
year.
Wait
a second. So it's been, May, June, 6 months from writing to release? That is amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's flown by. Like there just hasn't been like a spare moment, but it's been good.
Oh, that's so exciting. And this is your first book?
It's the first one I've published. Oh, yeah. I used to write a lot creatively in high school and college, and I always wanted to publish a book, but I just felt like I never had the right story to tell. So I was kind of waiting on that, and then this just kind of happened. I wasn't really, like out to write a book this year, but I just got an idea and wanted to like run with it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. People have always said like, oh, do you want to write? I was like, that would be cool, but I don't have a story. I feel like I can't write unless it just comes to me.
No, totally. It's gotta really like strike you and strike at the right time where you can dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah. And we'll definitely talk a little bit more about your writing and publishing journey. But before we get there, are you ready to jump into your nerdy identity?
Yes.
What is the first thing that you were nerdy about?
There were a couple things, honestly. I think musical theater was the first one because I fell in love with singing really young, like things like Wizard of Oz. Even Titanic. I was like obsessed with Titanic. Like my heart will go on. I used to like stand in front of the TV singing it. But yeah, I think it was theater for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. So you performed a lot?
I did. So I went to school for musical theater, pretty much acted, sang, danced my whole life. And then I was living in New York, kind of pursuing it. And I would like travel and go on contracts. But right around COVID, I ended up moving back. I'm from Buffalo. So I moved back there when everything was sort of like shutting down. And so that really made me change career paths a little bit. Not fully, but I started just getting more into like music, writing songs, and just kind of focusing on my own performing.
That's amazing. Who are some of your favorite artists?
I love Lana Del Rey, 1975, very like indie rock kind of stuff, Phoebe Bridgers.
Cool. When was the last time you acted?
Oh God. It was right before COVID. I was doing a play in Albany, and I remember we were like taking the train back in and we were like joking about this COVID on TV. And then we get there and we're like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Yeah. So that was the last thing I did.
How would you say your acting and your creativity and the music, all of that, how would you say that has maybe influenced your writing?
I think it's all kind of played a part. And I never really expected that. So like as I was writing scenes, I was thinking about blocking and like where the characters would be positioned, what they would be doing. And also I used to do like write plays and things like that. But I thought a lot about subtext and, most of the time we don't say what we mean. We try and get what we want without saying it. So I was trying to be aware of that and aware of tension and conflict. And so, yeah, I think it all kind of played a part.
I love that. So art and creativity is just a huge part of your life.
It is, yeah. I always loved art, even just like drawing, painting. I was a big painter in high school. And I feel like my artistic skills kind of can come into play with this now because I'm pretty much doing it all on my own. So it's definitely been useful, all the creative stuff that I spent my life doing.
So wait, did you do the cover for your book yourself?
I did the cover in Photoshop.
Wow, I'm looking at it right now. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
What is your favorite nerdy thing?
Oh, God. I mean, I would say books, but I just have like so many things. I definitely nerd out about books, like fairy books, dragons, things like that. And I love Netflix and Hulu. I just love TV shows. Anything like paranormal, that I'm into it.
Oh, so you must love Halloween.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I got my costume planned. I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah. What's your costume?
Do you know Practical Magic?
No, I don't.
Oh my God, you have to watch it. It's Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, and they play two witches and they're sisters. And there's an epic scene where Sandra Bullock is like in the garden and her aunts like cast a spell so that she falls in love with this guy. And she goes running down the street, jumps into his arms and kisses him. And it's like such an iconic movie kiss. So I had to do it.
I guess I have to see this movie.
You have to.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Okay.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
Do you have any like go-to books, like comfort books?
I think anything Sarah J. Maas is like a comfort book to me.
Yeah. I just read all 5 of the books in like ACOTAR in that world. And so I think Throne of Glass is next for me. I was surprised at how much I loved the 5th book.
I like that one. I think my favorite is Mist and Fury.
Yeah.
Because I love Reese.
Yeah.
I just love him.
What are you currently nerdy about?
I think art. I'm doing a lot of I'm trying to do character art for the book. So I've really been spending a lot of time in like Procreate on my iPad, just drawing and like painting and trying to get good at it. So I would say that. And then I just watched this Netflix series, The Menendez Brothers.
Oh, I've been seeing that all over.
Oh my God. It was so good and very disturbing. So I liked it.
I haven't seen it, but I see everybody online talking about it.
It's very good. Recommend it.
What do you think is the most underrated nerdy thing in general or underrated nerdy thing about you?
I think fantasy in general is pretty underrated.
You think so?
I do. I feel like it's definitely become more, like mainstream and it's more in pop culture now, but like it just happened. Like all the stuff with Court of Thorns and Roses, I feel like it just kind of blew up out of nowhere. Whereas like a couple of years ago, I don't think as many people were aware of it as a genre. And now it's become like a lot bigger.
I could see that. I mean, I think that could be in part due to maybe Fourth Wing, because I know that brought me back into reading fantasy. That seemed to be kind of huge.
I only read the first one. I don't think I read the second. And I think there's a third coming out.
In January.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. I will have to read those.
What is the most random nerdy thing about you?
I used to have a pet frog.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I believed every year. So every year my mom would get this like frog from a farm, tell me it was the same frog every year. And I believed it. I was very gullible as a child. So that's another thing. I was so gullible, believed in Santa until I was probably in like 8th grade.
Okay. So I see the connection between that and you loving fantasy.
Yeah. I'd love to live in worlds that aren't real.
So let's talk more about then your journey into like fandom and nerdiness and writing. Like what has that been like for you?
It's really been like coming back to something I love because for so long I sort of forgot about it. But I always loved reading. I loved mythology and things like that. And then I think in high school when like vampires were all the rage and Twilight came out, that really made me that was like my first major fandom that I was like part of was Twilight.
Interesting.
And yeah, I loved it. And then Vampire Diaries too.
Love Vampire Diaries.
That show. I could tell. I watched that show over and over.
Really?
I never get sick of it. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister does that too. I talk about it with her sometimes. Who were you? Let me guess. Damon, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't even need to ask.
Absolutely. I mean, I love Stefan, but it's Damon. It just is.
Okay. So you've always been, a fan of fantasy. You've always been like a creative. How did you get from the process of that to then writing this book and publishing it within a 6-month period?
So, TikTok was very helpful in like the self-publishing information because I had no idea what I was doing, but there were a lot of great resources. I think, honestly, I was working a bartending job and the bar would be so dead. No offense to the bar, but it would be so dead in the morning when I was working that I would download books on my phone and I would just sit there and read like all the time. And then one day I just kind of had an idea that just popped into my head. And so I went home and I like wrote the first scene. And then I was like, it would be really cool if like she ended up in the fairy world. And then I just started writing it and I couldn't stop.
What was it like for you to then actually start the publishing process? Were you afraid?
No, not really, because it was just something that I always wanted to do. And I was turning 30 and I was like, wow, this would be really cool to get this out right around my 30th birthday. So I didn't really, think it through too much, whether or not it was going to be good or whether people liked it or not. And I think it's because I'm so used to putting myself out there, with theater and music that it didn't really faze me. It was exciting. And I feel like I learned a lot of different skills. Like map making was so much fun. I created like a playlist for the book. So honestly, when it was all done, I was just so excited to like hold the book in my hands and even just have friends and family read it. I was like, I don't really care if it goes viral, but I mean, it'd be nice, but it doesn't
totally
have to,
Yeah. So you did it because it was something that you love. Like you care about it so much that you're not of course you want everybody to read it. You want it to be a huge, huge success, but what matters to you the most is just like the process of it, the story, and diving into that world.
Absolutely.
Super cool. So would you say from a very early age, you were really into like books and reading and nerdiness and all of that?
Yeah. I actually thought about like double majoring in English when I was in college, but theater was it was just time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
You'd go to class, you go to rehearsals, then you'd, do your performances. But before that, I was like, yeah, I could definitely see myself doing either theater or something with English. So it's kind of cool to come back to that years later after being away from it for a long time.
Did you have any sort of process while writing?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I love that.
It was it was very freeing because I kind of let the story form itself. And I knew there were certain scenes that I was like, okay, this has to happen. I really want this to happen or these characters to be together. But it just really told itself once I started writing it. Working on book 2, though, much harder. Totally different story.
Right. So it's going to be a series.
It is a series, yeah.
Do you know how many books in the series you're planning?
I want to say 3, but there are a lot of side characters too that are very charming and very interesting, and I really want to explore their stories. So I feel like it might veer off at one point.
Cool. So you're building an entire world.
Yeah, which was also so much fun. And I was like geeking out about it, just kind of coming up with like their magic and the rules and just this entire universe. It could be whatever you want it to be. It was very fun.
And I'm assuming there's some romance in there.
Oh, yes. Not a book without romance. Yeah, definitely romance. Forbidden love, like love triangles. So, yeah.
What has been the most surprising part of this process so far?
I think the response I've been getting, like on Goodreads, I sent it out to a bunch of ARC readers to read in advance, and they've really been connecting to it. And I think it's cool because it has substance, it has emotion, it's a story about healing, and you're watching this girl go from really disliking her life to finding her place in the world. So people have been really enjoying it, and I love seeing them say like they relate to certain characters, or they love them, they want to see more, they're waiting for book 2. So it's been really rewarding and surprising because I didn't know if I would just liked it because I wrote it or if it was actually, decent. So that's been nice.
That's amazing. So I know you said that right now writing book 2 is not the same as it was writing book 1.
No, it's much harder because now everything is in place and it ends on a cliffhanger. So I had to pick up right where it left off. And I think this one is also more difficult because I decided to have it be 3 POVs.
Oh,
So the first book is just the FMC's point of view. And then the second one is going to be her and 2 of the guys in the book.
Okay. For anybody listening who doesn't know, FMC is female main character, right? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a process now where you're like trying to sit down and write, or are you kind of doing the same thing where you're just like letting it happen?
I think it's harder because I'm thinking of the series like long term and where it has to end up. And also I'm making up my mind about what's going to happen as I go.
Oh, it's so interesting.
It's cool, but it's very scary because now I don't want to piss people off, you know?
Oh, that's a good point. Like before, you
Um,
didn't know what people would think, and now
right.
people are going to have attachments and opinions, but you're
Exactly.
going to piss people off. And I think that might be a good
Yeah,
sign.
that's true. I never thought of it that way, but that means they're invested. So,
Exactly.
mhm.
Exactly. And I mean, really, nobody knows the story better than you.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think what will make this entire series so special is how intentional you sound about it. Like
Mhm.
intentional in the sense of like you're not trying to force it, you're letting the story sort of happen and flow. And I kind of like that. It's like you know that the story exists and you're kind of like on the path to find it and write it.
Yeah, in a way. It's been a lot of fun. And writing the first one, I definitely felt like it was healing for me to just write about it. Yeah, and just tell the story.
So, what has been the most meaningful part of you entering this nerdy fantasy world? Like, how has it changed your life?
I think it's brought more joy into it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely kind of made me a little bit braver. I left my bartending job recently and I'm just focusing on music and writing, and it's been good so far. It was definitely scary at first, but yeah, it's inspired me to just follow the things that make me happy and bring joy into my life.
Yeah. And you're getting to really use that creative part of yourself to connect with others and share stories and create.
I was talking to my mom about this yesterday, and she was like, everything you've done in your life that's been creative is now culminated in one thing. So it's all kind of came full circle, and that feels pretty cool.
What was it like for you when you were younger, engaging in all of these creative exercises?
I mean, I loved it. I really did. I loved theater, and I think the relationships you form when you're doing a show, they're so special, and they can result in like lifelong friendships. So that's part of it, but it's also kind of a lonely
Hmm.
life. You know, when I lived in New York, I had a lot of friends close by, but it was still isolating in a way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of art, it has opportunity to be amazing and make your life really rich, but it can also make you a little bit isolated. And I've definitely felt that recently, like, you know, just sitting in the apartment, just writing. So it's important
Mhm.
to like consciously get out there and live, you know?
I think what you bring up, like it's important to get out there and live, is something I think about a lot when I think about these stories because
Hmm.
I value stories and fandoms and nerdiness and all of that. And I also know it can be easy to get so caught up in it that we ignore
Yeah.
ourselves because we're focusing so much on stories. And I do think it's important to also recognize that our own lives, we all have our own stories as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important to just experience life and take it for what it is, good or bad, and just, you know, roll with it.
Yeah. Is there anything else about your journey with writing or with music or creating that you want to talk about or share?
I just want people to know that if you change your mind, it's okay. Like I've changed my
Mm.
mind so many times, it feels like. And my ultimate goal, like growing up from like 3 years old to when I left New York in like 2020, I wanted to be on Broadway. That was like my life's goal. And I poured like all of myself into it. And then changing my mind or even just like switching gears, I kind of felt this like guilt. But why? There's no reason to. So I kind of just try to keep that in mind as I was going forward, and just like realize that if you're a creative person, you don't need to fit yourself into any box. You can be more than one thing. And anybody, if even if you're not creative, you don't have to be your job. Like you're not your job. You're
Mhm.
a fully formed person with likes and dislikes and hobbies. So I don't know. I guess that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. What does being a nerd mean to you?
I think it's like unapologetically loving what you love and not caring if anybody, you know, hates on it or whatever. What is like your favorite nerdy thing?
Oh, me?
Like what do you like? Yeah.
My favorite nerdy thing I feel like changes all the time. Right now, my favorite nerdy thing, I might have answered this on the podcast in the past before. So
Hmm.
it might be a different answer, but I think right now I'm kind of into music more than books. Most of the time, like I'm into
Okay.
books, but right now I'm kind of feeling music. And I think that might be
Mm.
because I am going to see Taylor Swift in a few weeks. So I'm like listening to all her
Oh,
music so that I'm prepared for whatever surprise songs she might
I
be
love
bringing.
that. Oh my God, how fun.
Yeah.
I love music. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Have you always been like a singer?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I started voice lessons like probably around 7 years old and just kind of stopped a couple years ago. And I had so many teachers and they've all been great.
So for book club, maybe we should have like karaoke so we could all kind of like hear you live.
Oh my God. I actually hate karaoke. I hate it. I don't know why. I just don't like doing it.
You don't like doing it?
Mm-mm.
Really? You're not one of the people
I'm-
who are like show up and then you start singing and everyone's like, oh wow, there's a real singer here?
Nope. I'm actually very introverted and very shy,
Mhm.
despite like forcing myself onto stages and to write books. I'm, yeah, very, very much an introvert.
Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, kind of. I really have. I don't think I saw myself being like a career author, but I was like, it would just be really cool
Mhm.
to write a story and put it out there. And it's music is so rewarding too, because every song you release, it's like it's awesome to hear it finished and see people sharing it and stuff. But like holding the book in my hands was just beyond anything I ever experienced. It was like literally like holding a baby. And not that I have a baby, so it's probably a lot better when you hold a baby.
I just still can't get over the fact that like all of this has been done in 6 months. Like you just went for it.
I think I have a problem because I don't think that's normal. And I'm like that with everything. If there's something I want to do, like it gets all my time. It gets all my attention. I obsess over it. It's been fun, but stressful, not only for me, but for my mother because she has to hear it all the time.
I'm so excited to read your book. I really am.
Oh, I can't wait.
What has the self-publishing process been like for you?
It's been interesting and it's required like all my patience because, you're uploading things, you're uploading files, the cover, images, and I used Amazon's self-publishing service. So I did the ebook and paperback on there, but it's just been a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And like fingers crossed, hope this turns out right. But the cool thing is there's not a lot that can't be fixed later on.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, I love that.
I was very worried about that because hiring an editor is thousands of dollars and I wasn't going to spend that on the first one. So I just had a friend kind of edit it and everything. And it's probably not perfect. Like, I know I'm not a grammar expert or like, with punctuation, but it's really easy to just like re-upload the book later on with when you fix that mistake. So that's made me like really relieved if I do find anything later on.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful.
So, going into our geeky recommendations to help people embrace their nerdiness, I think kind of a few things that you just said today I want to recommend because I think they're so powerful. One is, well, you didn't directly say this, but you kind of just went for it. You had an idea, you were inspired, you wrote, and you did it. And I want to encourage people to do that as well and to take those risks and to create when you feel it. And then what you just said, like things can be fixed later. Take that in mind too. Things do not have to be perfect. Perfect doesn't really even exist, in my opinion. Like you can do things and you can pivot and change things later. I mean, I'm going to be announcing in a few months some changes I'm making on the podcast. Like you can change. You're not stuck and it's just part of the process. And I think that it's amazing.
I totally agree with that whole thing. There's an amazing book by, can't remember her name, but she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and it's called Big Magic. And a friend gave this to me and it was so powerful. And it was all about how when you're inspired to do something, there's a reason you're inspired to do it. So follow it through because if you don't, it will go somewhere else. She talks about creativity as like an entity that like visits you.
Oh,
so she's
so
like,
fascinating.
yeah, she's like, if you don't do it, it's going to get done, but you have to like open the door to it, say yes to it and be flexible. Don't be afraid to change and do what you want.
I love that. Do you have any other geeky recommendations to help people embrace their nerdiness?
I would say join a book club.
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to be part of a book club and I'm still like kind of new down to Fort Lauderdale. And I really wanted to meet people who would geek out with me about books.
Yeah.
And so that's been really cool. I love going. I love the discussions. I love hearing what everybody's reading and just connecting with other women that are interested in the same things.
I know. I'm so glad that you joined and that we met and that you're on my podcast and now I get to read your book. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's very cool.
Marina, where can people find you? Where can people find your music, your book? Like plug everything.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram at Marina Laurendi. Same thing with Facebook, TikTok, Threads, all that stuff. The book is available on Amazon. in paperback, Kindle Unlimited. And I'm hoping we can get it into some bookstores. That's next on my to-do list, is uploading it and pursuing all that. So yeah, I hope everybody goes and checks it out.
Yeah, I will make it easy. So everybody go check out the show notes, check out the book. Even if maybe you're not into fantasy, like give this a chance, see what it's like. Maybe this could be your entryway.
I think it's a good starting point. The world is not too complicated to understand, but it's still fun.
Marina, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was so nice to talk to you. I'm so excited, and like congratulations, and like
thank you.
I just wish you all the success. Like this is all very exciting.
Thank you so much. This is my first podcast doing about the book. So thank you for having me. I feel really like cool.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? We'll have you back on to talk about your second book, or maybe even sooner. Okay. We'll see. I mean, at the rate that you're writing, maybe in 6 months we'll be back here talking about your second book.
Maybe. I'll be dead, though, by then, if that's true.
Yeah, I bet you need some relaxing time.
I need sleep. I need it.
Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. And please be sure that you are following That Nerd Thing in your favorite podcast app so that you never miss an episode. And if you haven't already, I would really, really, really appreciate it if you are able to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can email me all the nerdy things at thatnerdthingpod@gmail.com and follow the show on social media at thatnerdthingpod. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.